Good morning, beloveds. No, she's not. Of course, she's not going to look at the camera. Sugar is being a little clingy today, and so I thought maybe she'd make a cameo, but now she's refusing to look at the camera. But that's okay, all right? Foster's over here with his back to me because he's mad because Sugar's in here. He's like, but this is my time. Yeah. All right, can I put you down so I can do my job? Nope. Okay. Can you sit there? Okay. This is life with cats, right? You never know what you're going to get. Okay. So, I don't know if you can hear her, but she's still purring. It's an amazing sound. Okay, it is November 4th. Our title is People Need Not Suffer. The first quote is, "For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your God which speaketh in you." And that is Matthew 10:20. The first quote, or the second quote, "The world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain." And that is the Science of Mind 107. There is no power in the universe seeking to express itself in suffering. The power in the universe is God, and there is no second power. People only suffer because of their civilizations, philosophies, and religions have wandered far from God's nature, and they have believed themselves separated from God's truth and love. Every pain in people is the result of some fear of lack, some belief in limitation. God can be the author only of good. People suffer through their ignorance of their oneness with God. A person can decide today to reject the whole history of people suffering and accept in their heart God's love, and the power of that love will heal that particular person. But healing cannot happen if anything in them still believes that they were intended to suffer, or that something in the universe seeks to punish them or hurt them. We must build a faith that is not founded on fear. We must step out of the shackles of superstition and rise from the darkness of fatalistic thinking. I turn to the center of God's presence and power within me. As I discover the truth about what I am, who I am, and where I am in God's universe, all fears within me are dissolved. I am what God is in me. My true nature is revealed through my inner spiritual self. My world forever extends out from the center of this reality, and I am subject only to God, who is altogether good. And that is C.C. Craig Gardner. Woo! Okay. Craig didn't pull any punches today. And that's one of the things that I noticed with Ernest Holmes is that Ernest Holmes would occasionally, he wouldn't pull any punches either. He's like, look, this is the way it is. And the truth is that there is no power, no spiritual power that profits from people's suffering. Now, there are a whole lot of earthly powers that do profit from the suffering of people. And as Craig said in there, they are founded on the fear of lack. Okay? Because they believe there are so many people in this world that believe that there's not enough to go around. And we know that's not the truth. We know that's not the truth. There is an inexhaustible source of love. There is an inexhaustible source of kindness. There's an inexhaustible source of joy. There's an inexhaustible source of compassion. And it all comes in recognizing who we are. Now, I like to use the word that we are beloved children of God. Sometimes that strikes people a little hard on the ears. So there are other ways to say it, in which Craig did say, it's like, let's recognize what's at the center of our being. Let's recognize that there's no separation between us and Spirit or God. Let's recognize what we are. I went back to using the term divine spark a couple of days ago. let's recognize that the material reality it's reality with a little r, whereas the spiritual reality is reality with a big R. And at any time, we can change our minds. We can change our minds, we can change our hearts, we can change our thinkings. One of my biggest beefs, to put it that way, to put it in the rapper term, with religion is so much of religion is based on suffering. I mean, you've read the story of Job, right? It's a story based on suffering. It was literally Job being tested. And so many religions have latched onto that. It's like, oh, well, you want to be happy, then first you have to suffer. No, you don't. No, you don't. And there are a number of religions that decided that their power lay in, people are miserable in this world and we can't do anything about it, so let's get them to focus on the next world. And I was like, no. There's so many things in this world that are joyful and happy. And yes, there is, and I am not by any stretch of the imagination discounting all of the work that there is to be done. But what I am saying is that there is no need for suffering, and that people who are suffering, people who are choosing to suffer, they can make a different choice. Now, there is a very real, because I did mention the earthly powers who profit from the suffering of people. And that is where our power is, because we can do something about that. I.e., today is the last day of early voting. Okay? And if you haven't voted, please go do that, because that is one way that you can work towards relieving the suffering of the material world that earthly powers are profiting from. God does not profit from the suffering of people. God does not want the suffering of people. But there are people who have forgotten who they are, who are involved in the suffering of people. And so that we have a responsibility to work towards that. That is one of the reasons why absolutely Science of Mind does have a social justice underpinning to its teaching, because the title, people do not need to suffer. Okay, well, people don't need to suffer. So one of the things that we do is we teach people, you don't need to suffer. What can we do to alleviate your suffering? Because you don't need to be doing it. And for some people, what they need is to be reminded that they are divine sparks, that they are God in action, that they can make a different choice. And what other people need to be is fed. Okay? They need to be fed. They need to be housed. They need to be clothed. They need to be comforted. And those are all things that we can do. People do not need to suffer. And some people just need to be reminded, hey, you're a beloved child of God. You don't need to suffer. You are not separated from God. And then we meet people who absolutely, we want to tell them, you're a beloved child of God. Here's a meal. Okay? So it's both. It's both. When who can see the choices around us and recognize that lack is not real, that there is enough to go around. When we see that, then we make choices, and that we go and we take resources that are arguably going to waste, and we make them available to people who have not had access to these resources that have nothing to do with God. It is not God that is keeping these people from these resources. It is people who have forgotten who they are, who think that there's not enough to go around, who are denying access to these resources. And it's like, okay, Oh, and I will just get up on a soapbox so quick, and I'm trying not to do that. Okay? So that is, when you read titles like People Do Not Need to Suffer, it's a two-prong. It is absolutely a two-prong. It is those of us who recognize who we are, recognize the abundance of the world, who recognize that there is more than enough to go around. And what we do is, when we recognize that in ourselves, we open up this flow in our lives. And then we choose to go out and do. In that, I said social justice. We go out and we do, and we make choices that help to make resources that are abundant, because we know they're abundant. We make them available to people who do not have that knowing, and I do, I've said before, I have an issue with missionaries. It's like, yes, what I love about missionaries is that they go into places where resources are scarce, and they bring resources in. They bring food, and they bring techniques, and they build schools, and they build hospitals, and they do that. And I'm like, that is all wonderful and good, and I absolutely support that. What I don't support is when you make the condition that they have to accept your religion for you to do the good work. Go do the good work, and people will come to your religion. But if your religion says you have to accept my religion before I do good for you, your religion is wrong. Okay? And I cannot be any more clear than that. So that is one of the things that I love about Science of Mind. Science of Mind says you don't have to accept our spiritual teachings for us to do good for you. We come to do good for you because it is who we are. It is what we do. It is us bringing good to you because we know that there is an abundance of good in the world and we want to share. If you're curious about what we teach, that's well and good, but let us do good for you. That's what I truly believe missionaries were meant to do. We talk about unconditional love. And honest to God, the truth is, the only one capable of unconditional love is God. Our love is always going to be conditional. But the more we can work on it to open those conditions up. I don't love you because you believe the same as I. I love you because you're here. You're a divine spark. You're a child of God. The more we can open those conditions up, the closer we align ourselves to who we truly are. And who we truly are is God in action. So the closer we can get. So we go and do good. People do not need to suffer. And how do we help them not suffer? By reminding them who they are. By reminding them that they are godlings, that God moves in them, reminding them that God does love them, that Spirit loves them, that there is enough, and to move those earthly powers who have been profiting from the suffering of people. Because what I said in the beginning was God does not suffer. Craig said God does not suffer. God does not profit from the suffering of people. Okay? So we move those earthly powers that do. We move them around into a way that they can still profit, but not from the suffering of others. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like. Can I imagine a world without suffering? Yes, but I'm going to work on it every day. Because you heard the question in my voice. Can I imagine a world where everyone has access to clean water? Can I imagine a world where everyone has access to enough food? Can I imagine a world where everyone has access to shelter? That gets me closer to a world where people don't suffer. Now, imagining is not enough, because if I can imagine it, then that will bring up steps that I can take to creating that world. So I just went a whole weird place here. Because I don't. Yeah. I am definitely one of those social justice warriors. I'm working for one of the mottos of Centers for Spiritual Living is a world that works for everybody. And we are actively working towards that. It's not just about imagining a world where everybody has enough to eat. We actively go out and do that. That's one of the reasons why we do here at Science or at Creative Life, why we do the food markets, the quarterly food markets. Because we know that some of our neighbors don't have enough to eat. And so this is one small thing that we can do to help people. And it doesn't cost them anything. We're not asking them to come to our church. We're not asking them to believe what we believe. What we do is we show up at a certain time in a certain place, and we give them food. And we don't hand them pamphlets, and we don't make them wrong. And we don't judge them, We just say, here's some food. Go feed your family. There are people out in this world that care. Okay. So what Craig says is every pain in people is the result of some fear of lack, some belief in limitation. God can only be the author of good, which is why we want to always go back to God. God can only be the author of good. So let's remind everybody who they are, to remind everybody that they're literally God in action. And maybe, and do it in a non-judgmental and a non-shaming way. Hey, you are God in action. Look at all of the amazing things that you can do. People suffer through their ignorance of their oneness with God. And so that is what Science of Mind, that's one of the reasons why the drumbeat of Science of Mind is consciousness, consciousness, consciousness. For every moment that we are conscious of who we are, we will make a better choice. We will take a more thoughtful action. We will, and more importantly, we will take an action instead of a reaction. I'm a big believer in the difference between a reaction and a response is that moment of thought. That moment of thought. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, practice, practice, practice. The more we practice, the more ingrained it becomes, the more likely we are to respond in a thoughtful and kind and compassionate way. A person can decide today to reject the whole history of people's suffering and accept in their heart God's love, and the power of that love will heal that particular person. For every person that is healed, we open up the opportunity for more healing. So the mission today, should we choose to accept it, is to reject that fear of lack, to know who we are, and to recognize the amazing abundance around us, and then to take action to move those resources around. Okay. I got passionate and a little confused. The title is People Do Not Need to Suffer. There are two things that I want you to walk away with. One, know who you are. When you recognize that you are the divine spark, you can heal yourself. And 2, that we are God in action in this world. And so when we meet people who have, it's called Maslow's ladder. You can't work on your spiritual side until your material side is satisfied. And that's why we do things like food markets and Habitat for Humanity and endeavor to make resources available to those that do not have access to those resources. Because once they have access to those resources, once a person is fed, clothed, and sheltered, then they can contemplate God. And it's a freedom we want for everyone. So, yep, that's it. So your mission today, know who you are. It's the same mission every day. Honest to God, it's the same mission every day. So let's let go of our fears of lack and lean into the abundance of God. Remembering God can only be the author of good. So, okay. The other thing that I suggest every day, it's the same thing. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry. I can hear it up in my sinuses. The other thing I suggest is to do something loving for yourself, do something kind for yourself, do something compassionate for yourself. Today, that looks like drinking plenty of water for me. It can also look like taking a walk, taking a nap, eating dessert first. It is about self-care, and it is also about enjoying life. You are a beloved child of God. You can and should enjoy life. Yes, there is work to do, but take your joys where you find them. So, practice on yourself. You deserve your own love. You deserve your own kindness. You deserve your own compassion. When you practice on yourself, you create a bank. So when you meet people who need a little extra, you have plenty to share. It is about creating a habit. It is about creating a first response. It is about creating that default setting so that no matter what happens, you respond lovingly, kindly, compassionately. You will never look in the eyes of someone that God does not love, especially when you are looking in the mirror. Okay. Yeah, there are certain things I'm going to get really passionate about. And I'm not ashamed of it either. It's just, sometimes when I am taken by the strength of my passion, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I can get that way. So, the other things that I suggest every day, do something to engage your mind and your body, unless today is your day of rest. I do have a rest day, so this is it. I let myself sleep in a little bit and don't go walk and do all that stuff. So, make sure you build in a rest day. You deserve to rest. Please do drink plenty of water. Hydration is super important. You can hear how dry I am, which makes my voice a little weird. So hydration is important. Your brain will work better. I also encourage you to get bright light early in your day, no matter what time your day starts, because it is about resetting your circadian rhythms. You will sleep better at night. You will have more energy during the day if you get that early in your day bright light. It is science. You can look it up. And then, as always, in the words of Ernest Holmes, open the windows of your soul. Allow the breath of heaven to remind you that you do live in heaven. Right here, right now. It's all around us, because it is a state of mind. It is a state of consciousness. That is what he was talking about. That's what Craig was talking about today. People don't need to suffer, because heaven is a state of mind. It is not a place. It is not where we go when we die. It is a place that we create right here, right now. And the more of us that know how to create it, then other people recognize the ability in themselves. We don't have to teach people how to do this. What we have to do is give them the space to recognize it within themselves. All right. Okay. Hi, baby. Foster just popped back up. So, and as always, you can always take Emma's advice about Creative Heaven. Look for the good and praise it. Look for the little good, look for the big good, look for the amazing good, look for the kitty good. Because this is definitely one of the goods in my life. Oh, that purr. Oh, that purr. So, all right. Here's the social media part where I remind you that we are Creative Life Spiritual Center, Creative Life Spark on the social medias. I'm the running Rev Ryan on the social medias that I am on. And I'm going to remind you about the soul sessions on the YouTube channel. They're you want inspirational content, go there. Okay. And if you want to know what's going on with the center, including that food market that I mentioned, because it's the weekend, it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving, that email info@creativelife.org, that'll get you on the constant contact. The hot links are hot, including there is a hot link that'll take you right to those soul sessions that I was talking about. So that's really good. Jesse works very hard on that on that email. Okay. So there's something I should be saying here. Oh yes! Have a great day, an amazing day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, an enchanting day, a magical day, a wonderful day, a wonder-filled day, a loving day, a kind day, a compassionate day, a good day. If that is too much pressure, simply have a day, because you are enough just as you are. You are a godling, a spirit, a divine spark, a beloved child of God, in whom God is well pleased and well represented. All right? That's the first thing we work on, knowing who we are. And then we let our light shine to light up everyone around us until they find their own lights. So, all right. That is what I know. So Reverend David should be on around 5 p.m. with you. Tomorrow is Saturday, which means I will not be on with you at 9 a.m. I'm going to shoot for 9 p.m. It's Heroes and Villains Weekend out at the Texas Renaissance Festival, so I'm going to go and be the god of mischief, literally. And Tom will be Captain America. So, if you happen to be in the area, come by and say hi. I will get it done though, so I'll do it tomorrow night. So know that you are loved. Take care of yourself always, and I will see you next time.